Abstract. As artificial intelligence automates technical tasks, once considered core competencies, organizations face a fundamental shift in how they develop talent and structure learning. This article examines the transformation of educational paradigms in response to AI advancement, synthesizing insights from higher education leadership and organizational development research. Three critical predictions emerge: the elevation of human skills to core competency status, the obsolescence of rote learning in favor of contextual application, and the necessary convergence of corporate and academic learning ecosystems. Drawing on evidence from organizational psychology, adult learning theory, and workforce development practice, this analysis demonstrates how forward thinking organizations are redesigning learning architectures to cultivate irreplaceable human capabilities: critical thinking, adaptive decision making, and interpersonal acumen that complement rather than compete with AI systems. Organizations that strategically invest in blended, context rich, and partnership based development programs position themselves for sustainable competitive advantage in an increasingly automated marketplace. Introduction. The integration of artificial intelligence into workplace operations has catalyzed a reevaluation of what constitutes essential organizational capability. When algorithms can analyze datasets, generate code, and execute routine tasks with speed and precision that surpass human performance, the question becomes not what machines can do, but what only humans can provide. Brynjolfsson and McAfee, 2014. This inflection point has profound implications for how organizations conceive of talent development, employee value propositions, and long-term workforce strategy. The urgency of this transformation is particularly acute for human resources and learning and development professionals navigating a talent market characterized by heightened expectations for meaningful work and continuous growth opportunities. Research indicates that employees, particularly those in early to mid career stages, increasingly prioritize development opportunities when evaluating employers, with 94% of employees reporting they would stay at a company longer if it invested in their learning. LinkedIn Learning, 2019. Yet traditional approaches to corporate training, often characterized by compliance focused, one time interventions, fail to meet this moment's demands for adaptive, human centered skill development. The stakes extend beyond retention metrics. Organizations that successfully cultivate distinctly human capabilities create competitive advantages that AI cannot replicate. The ability to navigate ambiguity, build trust across diverse stakeholder groups, exercise ethical judgment in novel situations, and synthesize disparate information into strategic insight. Collings et al., 2019. These capabilities emerge not from traditional technical training, but from learning architectures that deliberately develop courage, contextual reasoning, and collaborative capacity. The education work landscape in an AI era. Defining human skills in the contemporary workplace. The terminology around soft skills or human skills has evolved considerably, yet definitional ambiguity persists. For this analysis, human skills encompass the cognitive, interpersonal, and intrapersonal competencies that enable effective collaboration, adaptive problem solving, and ethical decision making in complex, uncertain environments. National Research Council, 2012. These include critical thinking and adaptive reasoning, the capacity to analyze information from multiple perspectives, identify underlying assumptions, and adjust conclusions as new evidence emerges. Interpersonal effectiveness, skills in communication, influence, conflict navigation, and relationship building across difference. Self regulation and resilience, emotional intelligence, stress tolerance, and the ability to maintain performance under ambiguity. Ethical judgment, the capacity to recognize moral dimensions of decisions and act with integrity when technical optimization conflicts with human values. Importantly, these skills are not innate traits but developable competencies that require deliberate practice, feedback, and application in progressively complex contexts. Erickson and Poole, 2016. The state of organizational learning practice. Despite widespread acknowledgement of human skills' importance, organizational learning infrastructure often remains oriented toward technical knowledge transfer. A Society for Human Resource Management analysis found that, while 84% of organizations report skills gaps, only 30% have implemented comprehensive upskilling programs that include human capability development. SHRM, 2019. This gap reflects several structural challenges. Traditional corporate learning models emerged in industrial contexts where standardized technical procedures drove productivity. Learning interventions focused on ensuring uniform execution of defined processes, an approach ill-suited to developing adaptive, context-dependent human judgment. Garavan et al., 2020. Educational institutions similarly face tensions between legacy, curricula emphasizing disciplinary knowledge, and market demands for applied, interdisciplinary problem solving. The result is what researchers describe as a relevance gap, where graduates possess theoretical knowledge but lack the contextual application skills employers value. Hora et al., 2020. The AI acceleration exacerbates these disconnects. As routine cognitive tasks become automatable, the premium shifts to capabilities that require human judgment, creativity, and emotional attunement. Precisely the areas where traditional educational models provide the least structured development. Deeming, 2017. Organizational and individual consequences of the skills paradigm shift. Organizational performance impacts. The failure to develop human skills creates measurable organizational vulnerabilities. Research by McKinsey Global Institute estimates that demand for social and emotional skills will grow by 26% through 2030, while demand for basic cognitive skills and physical manual skills will decline. Bughin et al., 2018. Organizations unable to cultivate this capability shift face several consequences. Innovation stagnation. Teams lacking critical thinking and creative problem solving skills struggle to generate novel solutions or adapt existing approaches to emerging challenges. Analysis of 1,500 companies found that organizations in the top quartile for innovation capability, measured by idea generation, cross functional collaboration, and experimentation, achieved 2.4 times higher revenue growth than bottom quartile peers. PwC 2017. Decision-making deficits. When employees lack contextual reasoning skills, organizations default to rigid procedures that fail in novel situations. Healthcare systems provide a vivid illustration. Hospitals with stronger organizational learning cultures, characterized by psychological safety, collaborative problem solving, and adaptive decision-making, demonstrated 30% fewer adverse patient events than institutions with weaker learning cultures. Tucker and Edmondson, 2003. Talent attraction and retention costs. The inability to provide meaningful development opportunities directly impacts workforce stability. Gallup research indicates that organizations with strong learning cultures experience 30 to 50% higher retention rates for high performers, translating to millions in avoided turnover costs for mid-sized organizations. Harder et al., 2020. Individual well-being and career impacts. For employees, the AI-driven skills shift creates both opportunity and risk. Those who successfully develop distinctly human capabilities position themselves for career resilience and advancement. Conversely, individuals whose roles emphasize automatable tasks without pathways to capability development face displacement risk. The psychological contract between employer and employee increasingly centers on development as a core element of the value exchange. Rousseau, 2011. Employees who perceive their organization as investing in their growth report significantly higher engagement, with effect sizes comparable to compensation satisfaction. Cuvaz et al., 2017. This perception encompasses not just access to training programs, but the quality and relevance of development opportunities, whether learning translates to capability advancement and career progression. The well-being implications extend beyond immediate job security. Research on skill obsolescence indicates that workers whose skills are depreciating experience elevated stress, reduced self-efficacy, and heightened anxiety about future employability. Allen et al., 2018. Organizations that proactively reskill employees buffer against these psychological costs while building internal capability. Evidence-based organizational responses. Blended curriculum design, integrating human and technical development. Organizations at the forefront of learning transformation are abandoning siloed approaches that separate technical training from leadership development. Instead, they implement blended curricula that explicitly integrate disciplinary knowledge, human skills, and workforce application. Evidence from adult learning research demonstrates that skill development accelerates when learners understand not just what to do but why it matters and how it applies. Knowles et al., 2015. This means embedding human skills development within technical training rather than treating it as separate soft skills coursework. Using authentic workplace challenges as learning contexts rather than generic case studies. Providing opportunities to practice decision making, difficult conversations, and ethical reasoning in progressively complex scenarios. Effective blended curriculum elements, technical human skill integration. Rather than separate modules on data analysis and communication, design experiences where learners must analyze data and present findings to skeptical stakeholders, building both competencies simultaneously. Reflective practice protocols, structured opportunities to examine decision making processes, identify assumptions, and consider alternative approaches. Multi perspective exposure, learning designs that require engagement with diverse viewpoints and stakeholder interests. Progressive complexity, scaffolded experiences that begin with supported practice and advance toward independent application. Accenture provides an instructive example of blended curriculum implementation. Facing rapid AI adoption across client engagements, the firm redesigned its analyst development program to integrate technical skills, data analytics, AI tool proficiency with human capabilities, client relationship management, ethical AI application, cross cultural collaboration. Rather than sequential modules, the curriculum embeds human skill development throughout technical training. Analysts work on client simulations that require both technical analysis and stakeholder influence, receiving coaching on both dimensions. Since implementation, Accenture reports 40% improvement in client satisfaction scores for early career consultants and 25% reduction in analyst turnover. Accenture, 2021. Context over content, experiential and applied learning architectures. The shift from content mastery to contextual application represents a fundamental reorientation of learning design. Research on transfer of training consistently demonstrates that knowledge acquired through passive content consumption rarely translates to workplace performance without deliberate practice in authentic contexts. Ford et al., 2018. Organizations implementing this shift prioritize case-based learning, using real organizational challenges as learning material, requiring learners to grapple with incomplete information, competing priorities, and ethical tensions. Simulation and role play, creating safe environments to practice high-stakes conversations, negotiations, and decisions before facing them with real consequences. Action learning projects, structuring development around solving actual business problems with learning facilitation to extract transferable principles. Effective contextual learning approaches, scenario-based assessments, evaluation methods that measure applied judgment rather than factual recall. Peer learning cohorts, small groups tackling shared challenges, providing diverse perspectives and accountability. Expert practitioner involvement, bringing current practitioners into learning design and facilitation to provide real-world context. Failure tolerance and debriefing, psychological safety to make mistakes in learning environments, coupled with structured reflection on what those mistakes reveal. Cleveland Clinic demonstrates this approach in clinical leadership development, recognizing that physician leaders needed not just medical expertise, but skills in team dynamics, difficult conversations, and system thinking. The clinic developed simulation-based leadership training. Participants engage in realistic scenarios involving conflict between clinical quality and operational efficiency, staff performance issues, and ethical dilemmas. Trained facilitators debrief each scenario, helping leaders identify their decision-making patterns and consider alternative approaches. The program has contributed to measurable improvements in team psychological safety, with units led by program graduates showing 35% higher scores on safety culture assessments and 20% lower staff turnover. Cleveland Clinic, 2020. Continuous learning ecosystems, beyond event-based training. Traditional corporate learning operates on an event model. Employees attend workshops, complete courses, or participate in annual reviews. Research on skill development reveals this approach's fundamental limitation. Durable behavior change requires ongoing practice, feedback, and reinforcement over extended time periods. Erickson and Poole, 2016. Leading organizations are shifting toward continuous learning ecosystems characterized by embedded learning opportunities, development integrated into workflow rather than separate from it, micro-learning and reinforcement, short, targeted learning moments that reinforce key principles at the point of application, social learning platforms, peer knowledge sharing, communities of practice, and collaborative problem solving, personalized learning pathways, technology-enabled customization based on individual skill gaps, learning preferences, and career aspirations, effective continuous learning elements, performance support tools, job aids, decision frameworks, and coaching available at the moment of need. Learning in the flow of work. Integration of development activities into daily responsibilities rather than separate training time. Manager as coach capability building. Equipping managers to provide ongoing skill development, not just performance evaluation. Technology enabled personalization. Adaptive learning platforms that adjust content and pacing based on demonstrated competency. Novartis illustrates this ecosystem approach through its Curious Minds continuous learning initiative. Rather than relying on annual training programs, the pharmaceutical company created a learning infrastructure that includes bite-sized learning modules accessible on mobile devices, peer learning circles organized around shared challenges, and manager coaching protocols for ongoing skill development conversations. The system uses AI to recommend learning resources based on individual skill profiles and career goals, while maintaining human coaches for complex capability development. Since implementation, Novartis reports 60% increase in learning engagement and significant improvements in employer-reported capability to handle ambiguous situations. Novartis, 2022. Practitioner-academic partnerships, bridging relevance gaps. The traditional separation between academic instruction and workplace application creates inefficiencies for both higher education and corporate learning. Universities possess deep expertise in instructional design, assessment, and foundational theory. Organizations understand evolving skill demands and real-world application contexts. Strategic partnerships leverage complementary strengths. Effective partnership models include curriculum co-design, organizations articulating needed competencies while educators structure learning progressions and assessment approaches. Embedded experiences, students tackling real organizational challenges as part of coursework, providing mutual value. Faculty practitioner teaching teams, combining theoretical frameworks with practical application. Shared learning infrastructure, organizations leveraging university expertise in learning science while providing authentic learning contexts. Partnership implementation approaches, industry advisory boards with substantive influence, moving beyond symbolic input to actual curriculum co-creation. Practitioner in residence programs, bringing organizational leaders into teaching roles, not just guest lectures. Applied research collaborations, joint investigation of emerging capability demands and effective development approaches. Cross-sector learning community platforms, shared spaces for educators and practitioners to exchange insights on skill development. The partnership between Arizona State University and Starbucks exemplifies this integration. Through the Starbucks College Achievement Plan, employees can pursue degrees designed collaboratively by university faculty and Starbucks leaders to balance academic rigor with workforce relevance. Curricula explicitly integrate human skills, leadership, cross-cultural competence, ethical reasoning, with business fundamentals. Students complete action learning projects addressing real Starbucks challenges, receiving feedback from both academic advisors and company mentors. The partnership has supported over 25,000 employee degree completions, with participating employees showing significantly higher retention rates and internal promotion rates compared to non-participants. Arizona State University, 2023. AI-enabled skill development, technology as learning partner. Paradoxically, artificial intelligence itself provides powerful tools for developing distinctly human capabilities. AI's capacity to generate customized scenarios, provide immediate feedback, and adapt to individual learning needs creates opportunities for practice at scale that human-only approaches cannot match. Organizations are deploying AI to support human skill development through adaptive practice environments, AI-generated scenarios tailored to individual skill gaps and learning pace. Conversational AI for practice. Simulated stakeholder conversations allowing learners to practice influence, negotiation, and difficult conversations. Performance analytics. AI analysis of interaction patterns to identify development areas, e.g., communication style, decision-making biases. Personalized learning curation. AI recommendation of learning resources aligned with capability gaps and goals. AI-enabled development approaches. Virtual reality, immersive scenarios, high fidelity simulations of complex interpersonal situations for safe practice. Natural language processing for communication coaching. AI analysis of written or verbal communication to provide feedback on clarity, tone, and persuasiveness. Predictive skill gap identification. AI analysis of role requirements and individual capabilities to proactively recommend development. Automated coaching supplements, AI driven reinforcement and reminders between human coaching sessions. Unilever demonstrates sophisticated AI application in leadership development. The company uses AI powered simulations that adapt to individual decision making patterns, presenting progressively complex leadership scenarios. The system analyzes how leaders gather information, weigh competing priorities, and communicate decisions, providing detailed feedback on decision making styles and blind spots. Crucially, AI generated insights inform conversations with human coaches who provide deeper interpretation and development planning. Unilever reports that leaders completing the AI enhanced program demonstrate 45% greater improvement on 360-degree leadership assessments compared to traditional development programs. Unilever, 2021. Building long-term human capability and organizational learning culture. Psychological contract recalibration, development as core value proposition. The employment relationship increasingly centers on mutual investment in capability development. Research on psychological contracts, the implicit expectations between employer and employee, indicates that development opportunities now rank alongside compensation and work flexibility as primary value drivers. Bal and Vink, 2011. Organizations building sustainable talent strategies explicitly position learning as a fundamental element of the employment deal. This recalibration requires transparent skill mapping, clear articulation of capability expectations for roles and career levels, enabling employees to self assess and direct development. Personalized development planning, moving beyond generic training catalogs to individualized learning pathways aligned with career aspirations. Development time allocation, protected time for learning that signals organizational commitment beyond rhetoric. Organizations such as AT&T have undertaken large-scale psychological contract recalibration in response to technological disruption. Facing workforce obsolescence as telecommunications shifted towards software-defined networks, AT&T launched a comprehensive reskilling initiative, communicating explicitly that continued employment would require continuous capability development, while the company would provide necessary learning resources and time. The initiative included transparent skill mapping, showing emerging capability demands, personalized learning recommendations, and dedicated learning time. Over 180,000 employees have participated, with internal mobility into technology roles increasing significantly and employee engagement scores improving despite industry uncertainty. AT&T, 2019. Distributed learning leadership, manager capability building. Sustainable learning cultures require learning responsibility distributed throughout the organization, not concentrated in HR or L&D functions. Research consistently demonstrates that immediate managers exert outsized influence on employee development, more than formal training programs or senior leadership communications. Ellinger et al., 2011. Yet most managers receive minimal preparation for developmental coaching roles. Building distributed learning leadership involves manager as coach training, equipping managers with skills in developmental conversations, feedback delivery, and learning facilitation. Accountability for development outcomes, including team capability building in managerial performance expectations and evaluation. Learning conversation protocols, structured frameworks for regular development discussions beyond annual reviews. Organizations like Microsoft have invested heavily in manager capability building as a learning culture foundation. The company provides extensive coaching training for all managers, including practice in difficult conversations, feedback delivery, and growth mindset cultivation. Managers receive AI enabled insights on their team's development engagement and skill gaps, facilitating more informed coaching conversations. Manager effectiveness in development coaching now represents 25% of leadership evaluation, creating clear accountability. Microsoft research indicates that teams with highly effective development coaches show 15% higher productivity and significantly lower voluntary turnover than teams with lower capability coaches. Microsoft 2022. Purpose and belonging, human connection in digital workplaces. As AI handles increasing proportions of transactional work, human roles concentrate more heavily on relationship intensive activities: collaboration, stakeholder influence, team building, and cultural stewardship. This shift heightens the importance of organizational cultures that foster genuine human connection and shared purpose. Carton, 2018. Research indicates that employees who experience strong organizational belonging demonstrate higher engagement, greater discretionary effort, and improved well being. Baumeister and Leary, 1995. In AI augmented workplaces, this belonging emerges not from shared tasks but from shared values, collective problem solving, and mutual support for capability development. Organizations cultivate purpose driven learning cultures through explicit values integration, connecting development initiatives to organizational mission and societal contribution. Cohort based learning, creating peer learning communities that build relationships alongside capabilities. Cross functional collaboration, development experiences that transcend functional silos, exposing employees to diverse perspectives and fostering organizational connection. Salesforce exemplifies purpose driven learning integration through its Trailhead learning platform and Ohana culture. Trailhead provides not just technical Salesforce training, but broader professional skills development, framed explicitly around career growth and community contribution. The platform includes collaborative challenges where learners work in teams to solve problems, building both skills and relationships. Salesforce reinforces this through cultural emphasis on mutual support and collective success. The approach has generated extraordinary engagement, with millions of learners completing Trailhead modules and employee satisfaction scores consistently ranking among industry leaders. Salesforce 2023. Conclusion. The ascendance of artificial intelligence marks not the obsolescence of human capability, but its elevation to strategic priority. As AI assumes routine cognitive tasks, organizations face a fundamental choice: invest deliberately in developing distinctly human capabilities, critical thinking, adaptive decision making, interpersonal acumen, ethical judgment, or risk competitive disadvantage and workforce disengagement. The evidence presented here demonstrates that this investment requires transformational change to learning architectures, not incremental adjustment. Organizations positioning themselves for sustainable advantage are implementing blended curricula that integrate technical knowledge, human skills, and contextual application, experiential learning designs that prioritize practice in realistic scenarios over content consumption, continuous learning ecosystems that embed development in workflow rather than isolating it in training events, strategic partnerships that bridge academic rigor and workplace relevance. AI enabled development tools that provide personalized practice and feedback at scale. These elements combine to create learning cultures where capability development constitutes a core, organizational value, and competitive differentiator. For human resources and business leaders, the imperative is clear. The organizations that successfully cultivate human capabilities will attract and retain the talent necessary to thrive in an AI augmented future. Those that cling to legacy training models, compliance focused, event based, divorced from strategic capability demands, will face accelerating talent attrition and performance gaps. The transformation begins with strategic clarity about which human capabilities create competitive advantage for your organization, followed by deliberate investment in learning architectures that develop those capabilities systematically. The future belongs to organizations that recognize learning not as a cost center or administrative function, but as the primary mechanism for sustainable competitive advantage in an era when technical skills commoditize rapidly and human judgment becomes the scarce resource.